All right. Well, I love what Joe said. It's Freedom Weekend, 4th of July, and certainly almost everybody that I've spoken to has very mixed feelings about this weekend's celebration. And so, we're beginning our month on making disruption sacred. And as we continue to feel and experience disruption in lots of different ways in our lives, this month is about providing some powerful tools on how we can make disruption sacred and how we find our place to stand in the midst of disruption. So we have a number of different things we're going to be doing today and experiencing today to help ground us on this holiday weekend about which we might be feeling somewhat conflicted. So to begin, we have a very special treat. We do have a ministerial student with us in our community, and you know her as a practitioner and spiritual coach with us. So she's going to be presenting her first talk, 10-minute talk this morning on freedom. And so, where's my little slide that has your lovely picture on it? I have a little slide for you, but I don't know what happened to it. So please stand up. This is Faye Lahoma Abdussalam. And so she is going to share with us her thoughts on freedom.
Good morning. I gotta shake it off. So, freedom. It's a perfect topic for discussion with everything that's going on, right? The overturning of Roe versus Wade, voting rights being limited, freedom of speech, being able to take a knee during the national anthem, or the injustices that plague communities of people of color. They're all on a growing list of ways that our freedoms seem to be limited or becoming limited. Disruption after disruption. It's hard to see the good if you're looking at or focused on all of that. But here we are in this human experience. It helps to remember that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. In the Science of Mind text, it reads, "The road to freedom lies not through mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws. The law of mind is a natural law in the spiritual world." I grew up hearing about the seen and the unseen, as if it were two separate worlds. They are both a part of the spiritual world. Ernest Holmes wrote, "God is all there is." God includes everything, all possibility, and all action. For spirit is the invisible essence and substance of all forms. He also said, "We are all thinking, willing, knowing, conscious centers of life. We are surrounded by, immersed in, and there is flowing through us a creative something. Call it what you will." I've had the pleasure of exploring the many names of this creative something. I grew up in Christianity, Baptist to be specific. I come from a family of preachers and ministers. My dad is a pastor, minister of music. My grandfather was a pastor. I have a lot of uncles that were ministers. And growing up as a PK kid, that's preacher's kid, if you're not familiar, I witnessed a lot up close. And so with all of that, a series of disruptions, that's for another talk, led me here to CSLDallas. As I embraced the teachings more and more, I noticed there was something greater seeking to express in me. Something I had known since childhood, to be a minister. I didn't understand it or really know what it meant growing up. At this point in my life, I felt like it was the ultimate disruption. Here it was, I was approaching 40, having to face I was still single and I hadn't had children yet, and I wanted a family. Ministry was the last thing on my mind. I couldn't see how I'd be able to be a minister with all the demands and manage being married with a family. Also, I couldn't see myself telling people, you can create what you want, and I hadn't created it for myself. Then I heard a voice inside that said, we teach that which we need to learn. So I said yes to the call, and then I threw a tantrum. I cried, I sulked, and I had several pity parties. There were so many beliefs I had to release, from women are not supposed to be in the pulpit, to my distrust of ministers. And then I remembered not wanting to marry a minister. And then here it was, I was becoming a minister. Who was going to want to marry me? I had a strong emotional opinion about it all. I had to release what I thought my life would look like at that age. I had said yes before all of me was on board. Michael Bernard Beckwith says, pain pushes until vision pulls. Thankfully, I went to spiritual coaches here. I had many practitioner sessions. They did spiritual mind treatment for me and held a safe space for me to work through all of my fears. I felt, acknowledged, and honored everything that came up to be released and healed. The more I let go and embraced the idea of ministry, the floodgates opened. My living and school expenses have been covered, even through the pandemic. The really cool part is the dating scene is looking a whole lot better now. I can actually see the possibilities of, having a family and being in ministry. I could have both, whereas before I couldn't see either one. I felt like I had to choose. Ernest Holmes said, the mind is a magnet, and we attract that which we identify with, the self. In order to get the most out of life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. This is not easy, for our old patterns cling to us with great tenacity. But being thought patterns, they can be reversed. If you are filled with fear, refill yourself with faith, for faith always overcomes fear. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of discipline and consistency. I did it, and I'm still doing it. So now I ask you, how would you take up disruption and make it sacred? The beloved Tracy Brown would say, what is mine to do? We are at choice. We are free to choose, regardless of what the circumstances look like. The choice is there. Ernest Holmes said, the divine plan is one of freedom. The inherent nature of man is ever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom, because freedom is the birthright of every living soul. Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Disruptions come in many forms. It could be traffic, marriage, a death, a breakup, a loss of job, or pregnancy. It's simply something that interrupts an event, activity, or process. Yesterday, I was leaving Cabo to come back from being on vacation, and my flight was delayed. when we got our tickets, there was no gate on the ticket, so we were confused. So we went to try to figure out what was going on, and we saw that the flight was delayed. And then we realized there were several flights delayed. And I could feel the angst and the frizziness of everything that was going on. And I realized in real time, I was like, oh, this is a moment to practice making disruption sacred. And so I checked in within myself to see, what does that look like? And I heard, be love. So I made sure I made eye contact with different people as much as possible. I smiled. I said thank you to the different workers, whether it was the flight attendants or the pilots or the people at the restaurant, because we ended up hanging out in the airport. But I made a conscious effort to be love, to be that stillness, to make sure that not only were we able to get back so that I could be here today with you guys, but also to be that presence, that consciousness that calmed everything, that allowed everything to continue to move in love, through love, as love. Making the disruption sacred empowers us. We have control over our emotions and thoughts and how we respond to disruption. That's true freedom. When we live from this place, our interactions and our conversations become sacred, disrupting what was, allowing what could be by affirming the spiritual truth. Thank you.
Yay! Yay! Great job. Great job. So you can go ahead and take it and sit down. Beautiful. See, look there. See, stop. Be present. Be present. Thank you. Thank you so much, Faye. Almost Reverend Faye. We're getting there. I know, it's fabulous. Beautiful job. All right, so Kirby and our fabulous band and music team have some music for you. And so part of what we do is we allow ourselves the freedom to feel whatever it is that we feel. So that's the space I'm going to invite you into.
There's a world at war, caught in suffering, citing casualties. Oh God, grant us peace. In these sleepless nights, I can hardly breathe. Despite brutality, I know that we'll be free. Yes, we'll all be free. So keep the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to see, we'll all be free. In these desperate times, love will hold us here. Love will join our hands, teach us to have no fear. So we lay our hate down to wash their feet. When we join our brothers, oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to see, we'll all be free. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to see, we'll all be free. We'll be free, free. We'll all be free. We'll be free, free. We'll all be free. We'll be free, free. We'll all days is to see we'll all be free. So let the light in, keep it shining, let it break into the darkness. All the love days is to see we'll all be free. Come on, we gotta let the light in, keep it shining, let it break into the darkness. Let the love days is to see we'll all be free. We'll all be free. We'll all be free. This is the test. I'm gonna have the music team join me. We're gonna go through a verse of America the Beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, so here we are, making disruption sacred, especially in this time and in this place. That's our theme for July, and today we are talking about fear to faith equaling freedom on our Freedom Weekend. And I love that song that Kirby sang, right? We'll all be free, but our job is to shine the light. And Faye spoke so beautifully about how that's a choice. And I'm just wondering, how you felt as we sang America the Beautiful. Does it feel beautiful to you right now? Are you finding yourself angry or in despair? Are you finding yourself determined? Or are you finding yourself loving what America is and it stands for? Right? All of those feelings are all the ones that are moving through us and moving through our nation, moving through individuals. And part of our freedom is to feel our feelings. But the other part of our freedom is to do our spiritual practice. And recognizing what is and feeling the feelings is always an invitation to spiritual practice. It's always an invitation to dig a little deeper, to shine a little brighter, to decide, as Faye said, in that moment between stimulus and response, where the feeling comes up, to decide and to choose who we're going to be, how we're going to respond, what it is we're going to be for, and what do we do with those feelings that may feel very powerfully negative, dark. We might fall into despair. And it's simply our fear talking. right? It's simply our fear. I have never in my life sung the song America the Beautiful without it bringing me to tears, because I think the American experiment is so amazing. And it is so palpably true that the science of mind and new thought is a fundamentally American-born spirituality, because it is built on the ideal that we are free. Now, in reality, is that actually true? No, of course not. Because as this whole experiment has started, it was started by people, individuals, men who believed in the limitation of the human experience, and yet they were motivated by an ideal. Do we all practice our spirituality perfectly? Probably not. And yet we're all motivated by the ideal that we believe to be absolutely and fundamentally spiritually true. Our philosophy is an aspirational philosophy. We aspire to be the indwelling presence made manifest. We aspire to be life expressing as the fullness of love. And of course, we see that in the unfolding of the United States of America, that we have worked to and aspired to this deep recognition and realization, actualization of freedom. And in the actualization of freedom, fear is often activated. Even as, again, Faye so beautifully shared in her talk, right? Deciding to be a minister. Are you? No! I can't tell you how many ministers, including myself, have claw marks down the wall as our vision has pulled us into that which terrified us. And when things are disrupted and it feels as though we are free falling, we can also be activated. Our fear can be activated. And so today I really want to engage in that, and I want to give you a powerful spiritual tool to practice each and every single time that fear is activated and that you feel your freedom constrained by that fear. Uh-oh. Man, I don't know what happened to my slides. I lost all my talk slides, too. That is so strange. Okay, well, we won't do it. And since I don't have the talk slides, I don't have any of the lovely and fabulous quote from Ernest Holmes. There's an extensive quote I was going to read to you, which I don't have. But essentially, he reminds us that fear and faith are exactly the same energy. And he says the most extraordinary thing. And I remember when I first read this, I was like, no way. There's no way. And this idea that we have all the faith we ever need, mostly it shows up as fear. And what is fear but the belief, the absolute faith that it's not going to work out? Fear is the belief that whatever is the worst possible thing that can happen is what's actually going to happen. And that's why we experience fear, because we imagine, think, we put ourselves in that position of the worst thing happening, and all of our emotional response is triggered. Faith is simply the opposite. It is the belief that the best possible thing that could happen is going to happen. It is in that moment between stimulus and response where we decide to trust that good will come of it, to trust and move in the direction that we choose to, knowing that the universe supports us. Faith and fear are the same energy. It's just whether, or so we could actually completely do away with the word fear and simply ask ourselves, am I having faith in that it's going to work out, or am I having faith that it's not going to work out? And what we'll discover is we have all the faith we all need. We just have to decide what we are going to focus it on. Sometimes easier said than done, right? Sometimes easier said than done. So this month, this whole month, we hope to provide some pretty powerful tools for you every week in which to help us make a disruption sacred. And today we're going to talk about dealing with fear. So the greeters have something they're going to pass out to you. And if we could have this put in the chat, and the link to this form, for those of you who are online, as you get the link to this form, you can download it. You can download it and print it. You can download it onto a tablet where you can work with it. You can write directly on the form that you're receiving, or you can write in your journal so that you can continually reuse this on and on and on. Now, some of you have been in classes, and some of you have used this with your spiritual coaches. This is the Fear to Faith worksheet. And it was so great a couple weeks ago in our Science of Mind class before the celebration. Elizabeth talked about how powerful it was when recently she went through this Fear to Faith process, and she was just gushing over the power of it. I've been using this Fear to Faith process now for at least 30 years. And applied it in those areas of my life where I feel, and I say that word advisedly, where I feel something has me by the throat. Whether it's my fear or my uncertainty or simply an old pattern that I feel as though I cannot get loose of. And that which is continually disrupting my life, whether it's that pattern or whether it's the fear or whether it's the disruption that has generated something, right? I go back to this work. Now, what we're going to do today is I'm going to lead you through this work. We're going to do it right here and right now. So if you need a pen or a pencil, something to write with, the greeters do have pencils that you can use. If you're at home, you want to grab that. You want to use a journal. You can do this with any of our spiritual coaches. They all know how to do this. It's an extraordinary process. So you'll notice that the places that we go on our worksheet are all over the map. So this is called whole brain thinking. So it's designed to cross between your left and your right brain. It goes kind of all over the map. And so I will guide you through it. And it is an extended guided self-reflection. Right, so it's going to be an opportunity for you to reflect and to just hear whatever comes up. Right? Don't censor it. Don't try to figure out whether it's spiritual or not. Right? This is what we're going to do, is we're going to confront that very thing where we need to do our practice. And you can do it about whatever might be up for you this weekend, about the 4th of July holiday. It might be something that you're working with personally in your own life. Whatever it is for you, we're going to go through this process. All right? And so just allow me to guide you. I invite you to simply give yourself over to me. Trust me that I'm going to guide you someplace worthwhile. All right? And just feel and hear and sense whatever comes up for you. So we'll begin just in the moment. We're just going to invite you to close your eyes. We don't want to pre-read too much on the page. And just allow yourself to breathe. Just breathe into that center. Breathe into the center of your being. We breathe into that stillness. That place where we touch our truest self. And we recognize that when we breathe into our truest self, this is a safe place. This is a place where we are connected to the infinite. This is the place where our intuition lies, our deepest understanding, our most authentic experience, right here in the center of our being. And as we drop deeply into that, I'm going to invite you to just call to your consciousness that which is, in this moment, most challenging you. Whether it is something in the world, whether it is something in our nation, your family, or in your own life. And just take a moment and let it bubble up. And notice as it bubbles up how you're feeling. Just notice how you're feeling as you reflect upon it. And now I'm going to invite you to begin on the lower right-hand side. There's a box called Oldness. And I'm just going to invite you to write in there just a few words to describe that which bubbled up, that event or experience or the thing which is most on your mind and heart. Just a few words. You don't have to describe it. You know what you mean. If you don't want to write on the form at home, just write box number 1 and write down whatever that is. And below that, just write a word or two about how you're feeling. And as you've written those things down, I invite you to take a breath and simply close your eyes again. And now as you have written it down, you've captured it on the box, it's okay, it's there. I invite you to project yourself to some point in the future. What is your highest hope around this situation? What you hope will happen when it is resolved, when it is healed, when it is different, whatever the outcome, however you imagine that outcome, what is your highest hope? And as you get a sense of that, you write that up in the middle box up there, number 2, under the word hope, on the left-hand side. Just a few words to capture that highest hope. If the best thing that could happen actually happened, what would it look like? What would it be like? And again, just a word or 2 or 3 to capture what has already filled your mind. And when you've written it down, I just invite you to go within again, closing your eyes. So if this highest hope has now happened, I want you to really make it real for yourself. That is the life and the world that you are living in. What quality or aspect of the one divine, infinite life would be fully being expressed as you are living this truth of this outcome? I'm going to read some words to you that might be the quality that is being expressed. Just listen and see which one fits. Abundance, balance, beauty, freedom, joy, love, order, peace, power, unity, wholeness, wisdom. I'll read them again. Abundance, balance, beauty, freedom, joy, love, order, peace, power, unity, wholeness, wisdom, or perhaps another word has come to you. And when that word that really resonates, I invite you to only pick one. When that word that really resonates, go ahead and write that at the top of your worksheet, and in the cloud, your word of faith. And if you're writing it in your journal, just write box number 3 and write that word down, your word of faith, right there in the cloud on the top. And when you've written it down, just go ahead and close your eyes again. Just let it rest there for a moment. How good it is to revel in that. And so we've had the joy of imagining our highest hope, the best thing that we can imagine happening. Now we're going to take a moment and look at it differently, and we're just going to remember that this is an exercise, that we're in a safe place, that our center is strong, and that we do not have to worry about taking a moment to look at that which we are afraid will happen. What is the worst outcome that you can imagine, that you are afraid will happen? If you doubt that the highest hope that you have is possible, what do you think? Where's the worst place that this can go that keeps you activated? And when you know what that is, when that has welled up in your consciousness, just go ahead and write a few words down to describe it over there on the right-hand side in the middle of your worksheet, number 4, under the word fear. And it's okay, we can look at it. We don't have to be afraid that we're going to make it happen. We're just looking at it in a safe place. Because the truth is, you already think this. Let's just bring it to the surface and write it down. Now, when you've written that down, I invite you again to go within. And I'm going to read you a series of words that are beliefs that underlie this idea of the worst thing that could possibly happen, the thing I'm afraid that might happen, the thing that I have doubt about that I think is going to happen. I'm going to read you a series of words. And again, listen for the word that resonates, that is underneath this that you wrote down in box number 4. Lack, debt, conflict, limitation, ignorance, rejection, death, chaos, judgment, dependency, duality, disease, poverty. I'll read it again. Lack, debt, conflict, limitation, ignorance, rejection, death, chaos, judgment, dependency, duality, disease, poverty. Or perhaps there's another word that comes to you that is an outpicturing, that is underneath this fear, this thing we are afraid might happen. And when you know what that word is, write that on the line above the word fear, where it says number 5. If you're writing it in your journal, just write box number 5 and write that word down there on that line. And when you've written it, just go within again. Take a breath. It's okay. We're in a safe place. We're just looking at it. That's all we're doing. Now I'm going to ask you, when this comes up in your life, whatever the word is that you just wrote down, when that comes up in your life, what behavior do you engage in? Let me read you a series of words and listen for the one that resonates. When the false belief comes up, what behavior do you engage in? Control, hide, anger, attachment, flee, appease, whine, depression, confusion, lose, withdraw, rebel, confront. I'll read them again. Control, hide, anger, attachment, flee, appease, whine, depression, confusion, lose, withdraw, rebel, confront. Or maybe there's another word that speaks to you. And when you have identified the behavior, then go ahead and move over right there to the left-hand side, number 6, above the word hope. And write in the word that describes the behavior that is activated when that false belief becomes activated. Write that in line number 6. And as you've written that down, I invite you to ask yourself, who did you learn that behavior from? Who did you see do that? Who did you learn that behavior from? Either because they did it or because you developed that behavior to protect yourself. Because, of course, it's not the truth of your being. It's not the truth of who you are. And when you have identified who that is, I'm going to invite you to go down to the left-hand side, down box number 8, the big box in there, and write in there the name of the person you most need to forgive. Could be you. Could be God. Could be mom or dad or teacher or brother or sister or whomever. Because that person is still activated in your life. So we put that on those 2 lines. I accept you, whoever it is. I bless you, whoever it is. Because we want to release their hold on our life. Where is that? At the top of box number 8, right under the word newness on the left-hand side, right under the word newness on the top portion of that box. Yeah? And again, if you're doing this in your journal, just write box number 7 and write it down. Now, box number 8, there at the bottom, that big empty space, that's where we're going to leave that open for the possibility for when this move from fear to faith has begun to activate new in your life, and how it does, in fact, manifest in some beautiful and amazing and good way. So we're going to leave that open for the possibility of how it's going to look. But here comes the beauty of the process. Here is the juice. Down below on the worksheet, you'll see what's called your releasing prayer. So, I release my belief in. On that line right there where it says, I release my belief in, you are going to put your word of error, which is your word from line number 5, right above the word fear. From line number 5, your word of error, the false belief that has become activated again by this situation. And the next line, I release my need to, you're going to go over there to line number 6 to the behavior, and you're going to write that down on line number 6. I release my need to do whatever the behavior is. And then the last line, I am grateful God, is you're going to pick off the top, box number 3, the cloud at the top. Your word of faith, I'm grateful God is the blank that I am. Okay. So we are taught that intensity and relentless repetition are the 2 ways in which we shift our consciousness. This releasing prayer is designed to move you from fear to faith. It is designed to unhook the activation that has happened when you have become afraid of something or been activated in despair or anger, to unhook the old belief and behavior, so that you can do what Faye did in the airport, which is rather than go, oh my God, I'm never going to get home, I can't believe this is happening, and why can't these people get their stuff together, and right? But when, oh, I'm going to be love. Do you see, the love is hard to get to because we are so activated by our fear. And so when this feeling becomes activated, well, first of all, you do this releasing prayer now for a week, 7 days, and you do it 70 times 7, 70 times every day. Some people split it up, half in the morning, half at night. You're going to do it 70 times for 7 days, right? Because that's what the ancients have told us. Is really powerful. Of course, my experience is then you want to keep doing it every time something has been activated. As I said, I've been doing this releasing prayer, this worksheet for probably 30 years, and I have unhooked and uncoupled very many things. And in the most recent one, which I did, I was dealing with one of my deepest false beliefs, which is that the other shoe is always going to drop. It's always going to drop. And so my releasing prayer has hand motions because, again, we are visual, audio, and kinesthetic people. So we write it, we read it, we say it out loud, and we bring our bodies into it because that anchors it into our cellular memory. This is the get thee behind me, Satan motion. So we are pushing it away. I release my belief that something bad is going to happen. I release my need to be afraid. I'm grateful God is the joy that I am. I release my belief that something bad is going to happen. I release my need to be afraid. I am grateful that God is the joy that I am. I have been doing this particular releasing prayer for the last 8 or 9 years and have healed some of the deepest false beliefs, which is why I can stand here today and say, while I am angry and mad and unhappy and it's not okay with me what's happening in our country today, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that good will come of it. I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that we will do our work and good will come of it. Why? Because I have released my belief that something bad is going to happen, and I've released my need to be afraid. I'm grateful that God is the joy that I am. And so I choose every moment to meet what is happening with the joy of knowing that good comes of it. Do you see? This is what the releasing prayer does. It deactivates that thing that happens between stimulus and response. It deactivates that and gives us something new to choose and a place to stand. And I will promise you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, if you will do this 70 times 7 and then continue to do it as you find whatever that old thing is gets activated, you will unhook and heal. And then you can bring your light, your truth, your love, your power, your presence, your word, and your actions to everything that is required of us from a deeply, profoundly centered place of love. And isn't that the way in which we want to walk around in the world? I highly encourage you to continue to work with your releasing prayer. If you ever need somebody to work with you on it, all the ministers and practitioners are trained in this process. It does work better to do it with someone. The instructions, if you want, are on the back of the sheet. You can have someone walk you through it. I'm going to invite you today and this weekend to celebrate the freedom you do have and to affirm the freedom that all people deserve.